will be having our new topic, which is geometric series. What is a geometric series? Geometric series is the sum of the terms of geometric sequence. We actually have different formulas for finding geometric series. First is S sub n equals a sub 1 times the quantity 1 minus r raised to n all over 1 minus r, where r cannot be equal to 1. A sub 1 is the first term, r is the common ratio, and n is the number of terms to add up. Let us have the next problem. What is the sum of the first 8 terms of 3, 6, 12, 24, and so on? So the first thing that we should do is to identify our r, or the common ratio. We have 6 divide 3, so the common ratio is 2. And since our common ratio is 2, which is not equal to 1, it means that we are going to use our formula S sub n equals a sub 1 times 1 minus r raised to n divided by 1 minus r. Okay, knowing here that our r is not equal to 1, so we will stick to this formula. If r is not equal to 1, okay, means that we are going to use S sub n equals a sub 1 times 1 minus r raised to n all over 1 minus r. Okay, so we substitute the value. So n would be 8, of course. So S sub 8 is equal to our first term. Our first term here is 3. Our common ratio is 2 raised to n, which is 8, all over 1 minus the common ratio, which is 2. Okay, so what is the sum of the first 8 terms? To simplify this, we have 3 times 1 minus 2 raised to 8. What is the value of 2 raised to 8? So we have 256. 2 raised to 8 is 256 divided by 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. Okay, simplify then, we have 3. 1 minus 256 is negative 255 divided by negative 1. Okay, we have 3 times negative 255. What is 3 times 255? Negative 255. Okay, so it means that S sub 8 is equal, so we multiply this, we have negative 765 divide negative 1. So cancel the negative, divide negative, so it means that the S sub 8 is 765. It means that the sum of the first 8 terms of this geometric sequence is 765. Let us have another example. What is the sum of the first 5 terms of 6, 18, 54, and so on? So let us try to identify what is the common ratio. We can have this 2. 18 divided by 6. So the common ratio is 3. Okay? Since our common ratio is not equal to 1, it means that we are going to use the formula S sub n equals a sub 1 times 1 minus r raised to n all over 1 minus r. Then we just substitute all the values. So since we are looking for, our n here is 5, we are looking for the first 5 terms equals the first term, which is 6. 1 minus r, or the common ratio is 3, raised to n, our n is raised to 5, all over 1 minus, what is our common ratio, which is 3. Okay, then we simplify. S sub 5 equals 6 times 1 minus, what is the value of 3 raised to the 5th power, which is 243, all over 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Okay, then we have S sub 5 equals 6 times, what is 1 minus 243? So we have negative 242. So we have, okay. So S sub 5 is equal to 6 times negative 242 all over negative 2. And then we multiply. So S sub 5 then is equal to, what is the value of 6 times negative 242? So we have negative 1,452 divided by negative 2. What is S sub 5 then? What is negative 1,452 divided by negative 2? So the value is 726. So it means that the sum of the first 5 terms of 6, 18, 54, and so on is 726. We also have to take note of the following formulas. If r is equal to 1, then the sum of the series is equal to n times a sub 1. If r is equal to negative 1 and n is an even number, then the sum of the series is equal to 0. If r is equal to negative 1 and n is an odd number, then the sum of the series is equal to a sub 1. So how are we going to apply those rules? So let's have the first example. What is the sum of the first n terms of 2 plus 2 plus 2 and so on? So the first thing that we should do is to identify what is the common ratio. So the common ratio would be 2 divided by 2. So the common ratio is 1. And then we identify the n, or how many terms. So we are looking for the first 10 terms. So it means that n is 10. So since our ratio, or the common ratio is 1, it means that we are going to use S sub n equals n times the first term. And then we substitute the value. So S sub n would be S sub 10 equals, number of terms is 10. And of course, the first term is 2. We just simply multiply them. 10 times 2, we have 20. So that's it. So it means that the first 10 terms of this series is 20. Let's have the second one. What is the sum of the first 7 terms of negative 5 plus 5 minus 5 plus and so on? So what is the common ratio? We have 5 divide negative 5. So it means that the common ratio is negative 1. And then we identify our n. How many terms to be added? So we have first 7. So n is 7. So since our r is negative 1 and our n is 7, or an odd number, it means that we are going to use the formula S sub n equals the first term. As simple as that. So it means that the first 7 terms of this sequence is S sub 7 equals the first term, which is negative 5. That's it. Let's have example number 3. What is the sum of the first 12 terms of 4 plus negative 4 plus 4 and so on? So let us have to find our common ratio first. So we have negative 4 divided by 4, which is negative 1. And then we identify our n. So we are looking for the first 12 terms. So our n is 12. Okay? Since our common ratio is negative 1, it means that S sub n is equal to, very good, 0. As simple as that. So it means that if we are going to add the first 12 terms of this series, it means that we are going to get 0. Okay? Knowing that our n is an even number. So since n is even, it means that the sum of this one is 0. How about the fourth one? What is the sum of the first 22 terms of negative 3 plus negative 3 plus negative 3 and so on? So our R here is, we divide this to negative 3 divide negative 3, which is 1. Okay? And then we identify our N. So we are looking for the 22 terms. The sum of the 22 terms. So we will be using S sub n equals, since our R is 1, it means that we are using n times the first term. Okay? So S sub n, or we are looking for the 22nd term. So n would be 22 times the first term, which is negative 3. We simply multiply. 22 times negative 3 is negative 66. So this is the sum of the first 22 terms of this series, negative 66.